Dr. Miller, welcome to the show and happy Purim to you.
Happy Purim. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I know that you're so busy with the holiday, everything going on. So Purim is a day that it's so fun filled. It's so all over the place. You're running and going, and we do things all the time. And sometimes we just don't realize the history, the meaning behind the things we do. So we have foods, we've got customs. Let me begin by asking you, what is your favorite food or custom about Purim?
Well, food is such an important part of Purim. We give mishloach manot, gifts of food to our friends. And then, of course, we have a Suda on Purim, a big festive meal to celebrate the day. And I think like a lot of people, my favorite Purim food is hamantashen.
As is mine.
I've already started baking. And there are a lot of different fillings in hamantashen, obviously. My favorite, that's what these are, is poppy seed. A lot of people think that hamantashen is called hamantashen just because it recalls Haman. I know a lot of people say that the triangular shape of a hamantashen reminds them of Haman's hat. In Yiddish, actually, hamantashen means Haman's pockets. So long time ago, we made fun of Haman, in that way. And there's also another reason we have this cookie, hamantashen, to celebrate Purim. In Yiddish, man, which means poppy seed, sounds a lot like Haman. So there was that pun as well when people first started making hamantashen in Europe. There's a lot of food symbolism on Purim. Some of it has to do with destroying Haman. Like when you go to shul on Purim and you listen to the Megillah Esther, that tells the story of Purim, every time we hear Haman's name, we all say boo, or we wave groggers to blot out his name. Mm-hmm. So there's a tension there. On one hand, we have to remember Haman, obviously. He was a descendant of the tribe of Amalek, and it's a biblical mitzvah, a commandment to always remember how cruel they were, how they tried to destroy the Jewish people. So we can never forget. But at the same time, we also do want to sort of blot out his name. Mm-hmm. So when we eat something that is named after Haman, like a hamantashen, like his pocket or his hat, it's sort of a way of destroying him.
Interesting.
Some other.
So interesting how I just love that. I'll tell you why. It's so Jewish to be like, hey, how are we going to obliterate him? Let's just eat it. Like, what I'm saying? Like, no, don't stomp. Don't destroy. No, don't do that. I have a better idea. Consume it and make it fattening. Like, I just love so much of what you said speaks to me on so many levels that like we are taking matters into our hands through our stomachs. Like I love that.
So true. It's so Jewish to eat nice foods. I have a couple other really kind of unusual, less known ways that we kind of destroy Haman in our food. Sephardi Jews might know this. This is my very first effort ever making this. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm Sephardi and I've never seen that.
Okay, this is meant to look like Haman.
It's good. It gets real close. I gotta tell you.
Okay, this is a Sephardi. It's Sephardi. It's a bread. It's called, has a Ladino name, which is the language that the Sephardi Jews spoke. Comes from Spanish. It's called Ojos de Haman, the eyes of Haman. Uh-huh. And I mean, I guess the idea is that you eat the eyes first. Uh-huh. It's so kind of yucky. Okay. But I used a really nice challah recipe for this, and I tasted the bread, and it tastes really sweet and good. So again, there's like
it's gonna get consumed.
Haman's
got no chance.
Yeah, you want to make it sweet.
That's so cool. That's probably more in the world of Sfarad, of Spain, that world, as opposed to the world of the Middle East. But it's a fascinating, very similar, custom and I've never even heard of before. That's so cool.
Well, I have a couple others. A lot of the Sephardi Jews went to the Balkans, to Southeastern Europe, and there they made their own Purim pastry. Now, again, I tried baking it. This is my first attempt, so it might look a little messy. It's called a foulare.
A foulare?
It's basically challah dough, very sweet, and inside is a hard-boiled egg. It's a little bit like the ojos de Haman with the eggs.
So how does in the bread is the egg?
Well, inside.
Okay, I got it.
A little bit. Inside is an egg. There he is. The egg is supposed to represent Haman. It's like he's in jail. It's like we locked him up in jail.
Wow.
So again, that's kind of a sweet treat. And when we eat it, it's kind of like saying, oh, we're getting rid of Haman.
Wow.
There's another reason that these kinds of foods are eaten, and it's kind of a deeper meaning. Again, it has to do with food symbolism. So not only do we want to like destroy something with the name Haman, but a lot of Purim food has a dough pocket. Like if you look at a hamantashen, there's that sweet filling inside, but you can only see a little bit. It's really covered with dough. There's another common kind of Purim food, kreplach. I brought a couple samples that we're going to have on our Purim Suda. Now, these are little pieces of meat covered in dough. They're very delicious. And they are eaten on traditionally 3 Jewish holidays. It's traditional to eat kreplach, anytime you want, because they're delicious. But they're really customary on Yom Kippur, on Hoshana Rabbah, and on Purim. Now, these are the 3 days in the Jewish year when we say that we're sort of judged. On Yom Kippur, God judges us. What kind of a year are we going to have? Are we going to be inscribed for a good year or, God forbid, for a bad year? Hoshana Rabbah is the last day of Sukkot. And it's sort of the end of that whole Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur season. And we say that Hoshana Rabbah is really our last chance to sort of repent and do tshuva and be sealed in the book of life for a good year. Then the third Jewish holiday that we eat kreplach on traditionally is Purim. Again, on Purim we were judged. The Jewish people were going to be destroyed in ancient Persia, and God intervened. And we say v'nehafohu, and all of a sudden, just in the blink of an eye, everything got turned around. Hold on. You're going to edit this, right? So in the blink of an eye, v'nehafohu, everything got turned around. Now, at the time, during the time of Purim, the Jews didn't realize what was happening. This was the first holiday that took place outside of the land of Israel. And there were a series of miracles in the story of Purim, but it wasn't like what we were used to. It wasn't like, say, the miracle of the holiday of Shavuot, where we all stood at Mount Sinai and we all heard, I am God, and it was like a really obvious miracle. The story of Purim had miracles, but they looked like a series of coincidences at the time.
Yeah.
It was a coincidence that Esther was chosen to be queen of Persia, and it was a coincidence that Mordecai happened to overhear people plotting to kill the king, and then he became an advisor in the palace. And the whole story of Purim really took place over lots and lots of years, and it was only afterwards that the Jews could look back and say, aha, God was present, but he was hidden. And we call that Hester Panim. Literally his face was hidden. God was there, he was helping us, but we didn't really see it so overtly at the time. So that's another reason that a lot of Purim foods contain something that's hidden, like the poppy seed in a hamantashen, or
the egg,
or
in the
the meat inside a kreplach.
Right.
Another reason we eat kreplach on Purim, on Yom Kippur, and Hoshana Rabbah, these days of judgment, is because there's this sort of symbolic idea that there's a sort of symbolic idea that when we eat meat, we're being a little cruel to the animal. We're allowed to eat meat, but there's a certain sort of hardness in eating meat. So on a holiday where we're judged, we want to conceal the meat in dough, which really is, it's vegetarian dough. It comes from, wheat, and it's much more nurturing. That reflects the nurturing, more kind side of life. And that's what we want God to be reminded of when we're being judged.
Dr. Miller, I thank you so much.
There's another tradition on Purim to eat beans, lentils. I have an example of a bean dish here, Sephardi bean dish that we're going to have on our Purim Suda. And that's because when she was queen of Persia, there's a Jewish custom, or when she was queen of Persia, Queen Esther concealed, again, there's that word concealed, she hid the fact that she was Jewish. Mordecai told her, yes, go become queen of Persia, but do not tell anyone what people you belong to. And she hid her Jewish identity for years. But she never really gave up on who she was. Queen Esther had 7 different servants, one for every day of the week. And that way she always knew she could keep track of which day was Shabbat. She never lost track, even though she had no calendar there in the palace. And she was a vegetarian when she was in the palace. So she did not have to eat any meat that was not kosher. And she really just subsisted on beans and lentils. So in Queen Esther's honor, it's very traditional to eat beans and lentils to recall her devotion.
Incredible.
Then there's one last food item I have here. It's traditional to have a Purim Suda, a Purim meal. It's very festive, and to have challah. Now I don't know how this worked out. This was an experiment of mine. Sometimes people try to make special challahs for Purim because it's a fun holiday and you try to, dress up and do unusual things. It was worked out a little messy. I put poppy seeds, mun, in my challah. Again, that recalls, Haman, and it's also really sweet and delicious. And I braided it and then I made it into a circle. So I think it's a bit messy. Some people say that another really nice reason to have challah on Purim is if you braid it, hopefully a little neater than I braided it, it looks a little bit like a rope. And that reminds us also of the rope that Haman wanted to hang Mordecai on. And of course, it recalls how that plan was thwarted. And, luckily Mordecai survived and triumphed.
Amazing. Well, Dr. Miller, thank you so much for bringing such wisdom and thought to the things that we take for granted. And I know no matter who is watching this, their sudas will be enhanced because of your words. I think I'm going to go out and make some new foods with my wife and add some new stuff to our table. And I appreciate your insights, and I wish you a happy Purim, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Happy Purim. Thank you. Bye-bye. Purim Sameach.